Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. If you watched my last video, I had you vote on which head you would like to see for today, either to be the Mopar head or the Ford head, and the Mopar head won. It turns out Mopar fans are very fanatical, probably because most of their life someone has told them to run a different engine than the one they're doing. And they've also spent 3 times the amount of money they have on their engine than others have. And they ain't quitting for that. They ain't quitting. So they're a die-hard fan base. So today, to reward you, besides doing this, I will show you several other 440 Mopar heads that I've flown, because I know you don't see it on my channel that often. I can flow 440 Mopar heads. Can't do the small block Ford ones or small block Chrysler ones because of the flow plate. I've been borrowing one to flow ones that you've seen on the channel, but I don't have one myself. Now I do have this 440 Mopar plate to flow this one. Actually, come to think of it, even, I can't show you. I also have the Gen 3 Hemi flow plate that no one's ever sent a head in to flow on that either. But anyway, let's get to today's head. What head is this? Obviously, it's from Trick Flow. This is their 240cc CNC ported head. There's a whole bunch of specs that go with it, and I'll go through some of it and show you the stuff. And yes, I did flow it, so you get to see the flow numbers as well. This is a 219 intake valve and a 176 exhaust valve. They both use a 45-degree valve job, and they're a 76cc chamber. The thing is completely CNC ported, and in all fairness, the port job looks fantastic. It really does. It's a good work. Usually one of the things I like to see is not so much of a, when they do the valve job, there's not a ledge here. That's good. Also, let me just turn that head for just a second. Hopefully not knock it off. The other thing I like about this is usually there's a transition line right here where the two tool paths connect, and this one's right on. There's really not much of a ledge at all, which is great because that tool path's also on the short side, which happens to be at the apex and usually makes it worse. So that, not too bad. The only criticism I could say about this is, you mean of all the chamber designs you could do, you chose that one? I would have thought you would have done a different design itself. It's still far better than the stock 440 Mopar chamber, but still, I thought you would have done more of a heart-shaped stuff and maybe move the spark plug over. However, I know that you probably can't because of headers. So maybe this is a nice compromise. It's not horrible. I just would have thought you'd done something different, Trick Flow. But it looks very good. Everything's nice and contoured. But this is, they have two versions. They have a 270cc version, which I have never seen. It's supposed to be their racier one. And then they have this one, definitely more of a street-oriented head. And I do feel bad for you 440 guys because this head itself, 240cc sounds large, but since most of the heads that come in the shop are small block Chevys, 240 cc's for a small block Chevy head might be big, but for a 440, a big block, that's super tiny. I mean, just to give you an idea, LS heads have more volume in it. Now we talk about cross section because volume's just one piece, but really cross section is more important. I'm gonna tell you this. Let me flip around this. This is tiny. This is the push rod slot area right through here. I measured it. It measures at 2.36 square inches. Like, so what's that mean? That's the same size as like an AFR 220 small block Chevy head. And that engine's only going to be filling like 400 cubic inches. This is that same size. So we talk about, forget volume, cross-sectional area, the minimum cross-sectional area. This is actually the same size as a much smaller head. So I do kind of feel bad for you. And I know they got a bigger version. However, this is probably great for a street deal. You're just, you know, you maybe got your 440 with the 6-pack. You're like, I'm going to show off to my friends. I'm going to really kick some ass. This is probably it. It's a nice street beast. Probably running great on the track too. But I don't think you're going to make any high RPM horsepower with this deal, especially if you got like a stroked 440, so a much bigger engine. You're going to make a torque monster, but I just don't see any high RPM horsepower in your future. My other criticism is this, and I think they did this on purpose. I'm going to stop so I can show you this, but maybe you can see this in real quick. This is the exhaust port. It's the same height as stock, and it's really short. And I know, because someone's going to be like, yeah, they make a raised one. That's probably their 270 version. True, but there's just, that's no side height. Makes it not flow as well. But again, I mean, it is what it is. So let me flip it around and I can show you what I mean. Here's the exhaust view. As you can tell, I mean, they're still pretty tiny. These are much smaller than even some of the more racier ones as well. And I know they make a raised up one that's a little bit higher too. This is just definitely small. And I think, I'm almost positive on this, this is targeted more for a guy that's just gonna go and have a good time on the weekends. He's not trying to spin this thing up. He's just having fun. Wants something to replace the stock stuff. And let me tell you, this is night and day better than the stock stuff, for sure. So, especially the chamber design, because the stock chambers suck. But anyway, that's its view, and this one I mean just short. I'm really curious if I ever got into the shop a 270 version of this, because I'm wondering how much they actually changed to make it better. I know you're limited by your architecture on the 440 stuff. But anyway, here's the valves, by the way, that comes with it. They are great valves. They've got a nice back cut on them. Good job there. And this is the exhaust valve. It's a tube design. So it should move some fairly decent air. I've already flowed it, and I will show you the results. And then I'm going to show you some other stuff too, for some other 440 stuff. Here are the flow numbers. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you, my flow numbers are a little bit different from theirs. And I publish as many of the flow numbers as I can just so I could share them with you. This was flowed on a 4.310 bore, and I know several Mopars are bigger on the bore size. That just happens to be the bore sleeve that I have. For instance, if you read the literature on this, they said use a minimum of a 4.32 bore for this head, which you're like, well, then that's why these numbers are lower. That's 5 thousandths on each side. That's not going to destroy your flow numbers, just letting you know. Anyway, let's get to them. Let's start with the intake side. So they say 72 at 1, and I got 70. So that's not that far off. At 2, they said 154, and I got 150. Pretty close. At 3, they said 230, and I'm 229. At 4, I'm 274, but they said 282. Now, that's pretty far off. At 5, 310 to a 310, real close. 6, I'm a 327, and they're at 326. So pretty close there. At 7, they say 334, and I'm at 329. It actually peaks at 8 on my bench at 331. So, I mean, yeah, there's some bore differences. In all fairness, the intake side really looks really close to what they claim. So they weren't that far off as far as that goes. Now, I can't compare the exhaust. You want to know why? It's because they float with the exhaust pipe, which I never do on any of this tests, because you can just put a bigger exhaust pipe on there and make it flow more. And then when you put it on an engine dyno and you put a bigger exhaust pipe on there, yeah, it flowed more on the flow bench, but it doesn't always make more power. So I don't flow them with the exhaust pipe. In that case, by the way, they flowed 4, it was 189, and peaked they did 236. Not bad. This flow would be terrific for a small block Chevy head. For a big block Mopar head, it's better than what you had, but it's not outstanding. But great for what it's supposed to be, I should say. Any other big block family, their heads flow more. And I'm not trying to beat up on you Mopar guys, because I really do like you. I truly do, because I know you really care about your product and you've been beat up on all your life. No sense in me just continue to keep doing it. However, I wanted to show you other stuff. So I printed off other flow heads I flowed from the 440 stuff. So let me show you, just to give you a comparison. This, you can go back and watch this video. This is that 440 source head. Let me just move it over closer. This was the 440 source head. It was CNC ported. It had a horrible chamber. And as you could tell, the difference in flow, we're just going to do 4 and 6 in peak. It went at 236 compared to this one's 274. Now I can tell you now, this one right here will stomp the death out of the 440 source. It just is. And then you look at 6, it was 273 versus a 327. It's not even a question. Also, this chamber is so much better. And then their exhaust side, they only went 214 compared to 236. So there you go on that one. But if you think that's all I'm going to show you, no. I've actually ported a few, so let me get to those. Assuming my fingers will let me do it. This one's going to be interesting. This is a ProComp 440 Mopar head. This first column right here is what they flowed stock. And if you look at it, this one at 4 was 245, and then went a peak of 307 at 8, which is still nowhere close to that. I ported it And this at 4 went 268, so it's not matching that there. But it did do 348 at 8, which, you know, like, no one runs an 8-inch cam. Okay, then it went 329 at 6, which is a little bit better than that. The exhaust side, forget that one because I did flow with exhaust pipe only at 1-inch valve lift, but all the rest are without. It's better, 258. But the exhaust port on this for sure is bigger than that. Now, that's just one. Let me show you some others. Here's the next one. This is set up at Edelbrock Victor's. So these for the Mopar. This is where they flowed stock. They actually went 270 at 4, 306 at 7 or 6, and they peaked at 324. I then ported them, and they went 273 at 4, at 6, 324, which is still down a little bit from there. But their peak flow was really good at 353. Exhaust flow, forget that number right there. It's okay. Not as good as that. Could be something I was doing. The lower lifts are okay. The peak just didn't get it. So let me see if there's any other head that I had underneath here by accident. No, I don't. So that gives you some of the stuff, but I did want to show you one more thing for you. This is for you Mopar guys. So give me a second to use all my strength to lift this heavy. I'm just going to stop the video. I'm going to break my arm otherwise. This, my friends, is a proper Mopar 440 head. Now, it's not ported yet. I'm scheduled to start porting on this in July, so you got a long wait before I can get to this. But this is a 440 Mopar head. That's a good runner size. These are, by the way, Brodix B1s. I heard they have a bunch of different configurations, but I'm not a 440 Mopar expert, so I'm not sure. These should end up pretty good. Really, really good, to be honest with you. They've got a lot of potential. I mean, they got a raised runner. They actually have an opening that's better size than that. See how much dramatically different that is? That size versus this unported. These are gonna be good. Really, really good. But thought I'd share that with you. So maybe in July, if you stick with my channel that long, you'll get to see these. These should be a wicked, wicked thing. But anyway, there's the last thing I had for you. Guys, Mopar guys, I love you. And you guys, remember, I'm no Superman, and I do not know all the Mopar stuff. That is your own little niche. So remember, I'm no Superman on this deal for sure. And you guys take care.